All right. So, welcome everyone. So this is one of many sessions this week. We kicked off one actually on Friday last week to provide a walkthrough of the national network map that's due to launch on the 20th of December. So the point of the session is to give you a bit of an overview of what is in the map, the scope, how to use the map, and then also to get your feedback, initial reactions at least, to help us improve the quality of the training material and tutorials that we're developing around this. There's also some video tutorials and further guidance material. So without talking anymore, I'll jump into the map. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that now. Right. So I've been playing with this. So the maps will be launched at maps.nhvr.gov.au. It is available now, so you can go to that link, and I'll post that in the site in the chat here. The data is still under review. The vehicle and map data is still being refined, so it isn't the source of truth by any means. So still currently use the state websites, but from the 20th of December, we'll be able to use this as a source of truth for the maps. And I'll give you a view of how to access them now. So you'll see that the landing page for the national network maps is a vehicle category based view. We do have two other views available. The vehicle categories view gives you a vehicle configuration type set of options that will then take you to a map as you drill through. The other two options are access instruments. So that will give you a view of the maps associated with each of the gazetted notices and some pre-approval and permit schemes that'll be part of the map from the 20th of December. And you can search for those using the keyword search. So for example, if I was looking B double, I can see that there's 3 here. The national notice, Super B's pre-approval in Victoria, and then Queensland class 3 notice for B doubles and road trains. So for those that are familiar with the notices, then it's probably a pretty quick way to go and find maps associated with those instruments. The last view is a networks view that essentially provides the same structure as the networks are presented in each of the states now. So for those of you that are familiar with the current state sites, then this is probably an easier, quicker way to get to those maps. So for example, in South Australia, for those of you familiar with RavNet, you'll notice that the structure of the networks matches what you see on RavNet on that state site. You'll find them in the exact same order. We've done the same with the other states: New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, and ACT. So those are the 3 options. I think depending on your experience, again, if you're very familiar, networks is probably the easiest way to go find exactly what you see now. Access instrument for those that know what instrument you're running under, and probably for newer users that haven't really used the maps before, we're hoping that the vehicle categories will provide a more structured, guided way to get into the maps for a particular vehicle. I'm going to start drilling down on the vehicle categories first here. The way that the vehicles are structured, you can see that there's numbers allocated to each of these categories, and they reference the number of reference vehicles or legible vehicles available in that category, which cover essentially all the different types of reference vehicles across different notices, pre-approvals or permit schemes that are available in the system. So I've jumped into the B double category, and you can see here we've got subcategories for 46 in total under B double, 16 for livestock carrier B doubles in particular, and then 13 for car carriers. If I jump into the B double, you'll see I start to get a list of individual reference vehicles. And so essentially, when you click on one of these vehicles, you're going to get a map that's available to that vehicle. And that map's going to be based on potentially one or more notices, pre-approvals or permit schemes that have networks associated with them. So this is the way that we're helping to achieve a true national map view. So one of the reference vehicles that has a number of states with the same reference vehicle involved is the B double up to 26 metre. And so what you're seeing here is the B double network for 26 metre B double across South Australia, New South Wales, Victoria, and the ACT. So for the first time, this gives you essentially the ability to see a map that spans across state borders. Those of you that do check these maps across the different websites, you know that this can be a little bit tricky to sort of line up. So as a key, I guess, benefit outcome moving towards the national network map is being able to see that connectivity across the borders and have one place to go to plan your journeys for these type of vehicles. You'll notice that Queensland's not in there. So these are reference vehicle based, which means that if there's any differences in the conditions for a vehicle, they'll show up as a different reference vehicle. So in this case, for Queensland, we've got no quad axle group stipulation, which is why we've had to split them out. So one of the things that we've done as part of the, I guess, first launch of this product, we haven't changed anything about the notices, about the vehicles. What this does give us is transparency of what those networks and what those reference vehicles look like. And we'll be using that in the coming months to start to look at ways we can improve the consistency between the reference vehicles associated with things like the National B double notice to help to bring things into one map. So you can say, if I use this vehicle, I can go across these particular jurisdictions and only need to review to the map for any conditions or restrictions on the map. So with that caveat in mind, the access that you currently have isn't changing. The maps are being taken across as is, but the opportunity for us to start building on this is really the key. Behind this system, there's self-service tools for road managers to be able to make updates in near real time, with some workflow to our teams to ensure that any updates, particularly any additional conditions or restrictions, go through a consultation process first. But the access that you have will be the same as you currently do. We've used a traffic light system for the way that the conditions, restrictions and access are provided on the map. So obviously, based on the vehicle conditions under this particular notice, you can travel anywhere on the green lines. With South Australia, we've taken across the same restrictions they have. So if I drill in here, you'll see that there's point restrictions here marked in red. And as you drill down into the map, you'll notice that some icons appear here, which will give you the ability to then start reviewing and clicking on those maps. So I can see there's a speed limit restriction here. And when I click on that, it'll give me the list of restrictions associated with that point. Now, we are, again, over time looking to move to using road segment lining to depict restrictions and conditions to make it a little bit more obvious where those conditions are. And you'll see that in the Vic maps. So if I jump out of South Australia here. I'm going to jump into the 26-metre B-double network, which has Victoria in it, just to show you how their conditions and restrictions work, which focuses on using line segments to determine where the conditions or restrictions precisely are. So I'll drill down in here into Victoria and wait for this to refresh as it does. On the side here, you'll see that for some of the networks, there'll be multiple options. So for those familiar with the South Australian B-double networks, there is the 26-metre B-double, but also there's additional networks associated with commodity routes for the 26-metre B-double, and those will appear here as options, which you can then toggle through. There's also an ability to see the any additional information associated with the network. Now, in most cases, we're migrating what you currently see on the state's websites as the informational content. So all of that information will come across as is. So we're going to jump back here and show you a PBS network, which has a few more additional items to it. So the way that the subcategories work will depending on the category you're looking at. So with the B doubles, they were structured down into livestock carrier, vehicle carrier as the predominant sort of mass of those reference vehicles in those subcategories. For PBS, obviously the levels make more sense. If I look at level 2B, you begin to see essentially all of the reference vehicles associated across the national notices. So there's the Tier 1 authorisation notice, the high productivity vehicle notice for Victoria and New South Wales, and the truck and dog notice as well. So we know it's a little bit of a different mechanism going through a reference vehicle approach. If you are familiar with the notices, you've got that access instruments category you can use. We're hoping that this provides that a little bit more of information to those newer users, or even for existing users, to understand exactly what reference vehicles are associated with the notice, which is a point of difference, I'd say, to the way that they're currently presented on the state websites. I'll jump into the New South Wales only one here. One of the things we have done is bring across information that's on those networks. So you'll have many of the PBS networks, there'll be information specifically when there's different reference vehicles associated with those particular networks, as well as having the links to the Gazette and the operator guide. We've really focused on trying to get you all of the information relevant to the network you're looking at in one place to try and make it as easy as possible for you to use. A few other options to try and make it easier to use this. You'll notice that I didn't log into this, and you don't need any sort of portal login or account to see the maps. They're publicly available from maps.nhvr.gov.au. To help you try and leverage those maps, and we do have a number of features that allow you to save favourites and save views within the browser that you're working on. So there's a little star icon up here which will allow me to save this particular network as a favourite. If I jump back out, in the toolbar here, we've been playing in the top section, which is essentially the entry point to finding vehicles. There's a few other options here. The star option is where saved favourites will sit. So I can essentially create a list of my favourite vehicles and quickly jump back into those. So I can save particular vehicles, but I can also save entire state-based network hierarchies. So I had previously gone into networks. Under ACT, there's 7 networks that we're bringing across. and I've saved that as an entire favourite. So the favourites list you can build up. There's technically there's a limit of around 200. I think that'll be more than sufficient for those that are using the tool. The other area that's useful is something called Save Views. So favourites will give you essentially a view of the vehicle card and the networks associated with that vehicle. With Save Views, it's a little bit more sophisticated. So what I'll do is I will jump into Victoria here. Now, the Victoria state-based network view is, they've got a number of web pages. Essentially, we've consolidated those web pages into different accordions, and you can drill down from here in one spot to see any of the networks that are currently available for Victoria. They have the most networks that are coming across from their website, which is more than 110 networks. A recent one was the Victoria Volvo Semi-Trailer Pre-Approved Network. I'll jump into one with a few more conditions and restrictions so I can say that. So I'll jump into Victoria's double gazetted network and we'll zoom into that. Might try the Chanel network. No, let's try the road train network. All right. I seem to have lost my networks. There we go. So up here, once you zoom into a certain location, we've currently got the zoom level set so that you do need to be fairly close, and that's important so that you can see the exact line work. So at that very high level, we're talking hundreds of kilometers. Getting down to a bit of a lower zoom level means that you can actually see the makeup of the road. And as this begins to render, you'll begin to see anything like intersections. We have railway crossing information that's provided on the maps now, as well as any traffic intersections as well. So they'll be more clearly displayed than we've seen on most of the maps that are currently on the state websites. As this renders, I'll show you the Save View function. So unlike the favorites, the Save View gives you the ability to name the view, and it also will save exactly what you're seeing. So I'll just save that, zoomed into the northwest. Now, when I jump out of this map and I go back to the Save Views, you'll see that I've got my Save View in there. And now when I click on it, not only will it load up to the networks that I was viewing, but it'll also zoom me into exactly where I was. So the important thing about that is that not only can you save that view and store exactly where you were, that'll also include, by the way, whatever layers you're looking at, which I'll have a look at in a sec. But it also means you can share that. So clicking on the share link will generate a shareable link, which you can copy, and then you can provide that via email or via SMS to others and share that. And that link will be can be opened up by anyone with that link, and it will take them to exactly what you're seeing on the screen. So that share isn't a share as in terms of a snapshot or copy. When they open that link, it'll open up a live map. So it'll be providing the conditions, what's available on that map at that time. What it's doing is it's providing a link that will open you up to that map, to that point where you're looking at it, and then load up all of the current information associated with that map. Including conditions. So we had a look at early on in South Australia, the point conditions. The road segment conditions are a little bit more precise. So you can click through multiple of these conditions on the road, and it'll give you exactly what the condition is, and they could be multiple. So in this case, for this particular road, it's conditionally approved, only accessible in dry weather. Similarly, for restrictions, having them specified at the road segment level means that you have certainty that you don't need to interpret with some of the point conditions or even with some of the area-based conditions where exactly the restrictions or conditions exist. With some of the other networks that we've migrated across, particularly from South Australia and New South Wales, a lot of the maps still use areas, and it's up to the operator to sort of work out where the conditional restriction is. So we're hoping to improve that over time to move to something that's a little bit more accurate and precise based on segment-based conditions and restrictions. One of the final things that we've tried to do to make this a bit more of a one-stop shop for network maps is provide a central place for all updates to the map. So the second tab on the side is the network updates tab. From the 20th of December, all updates to the maps will be logged and made available through this table here. Now, this will also include updates that are under consultation. So one of the things that we've built into the workflow for updating maps is, as long as it's not an emergency update, any restrictions or conditions will go through a 28-day consultation period, and we'll post those forward notices in this updates table here. So this updates table will essentially provide you with the full history of updates, again, from the 20th of December, and including updates that are forward-facing, those that have come. You'll be able to subscribe to these updates, and you'll be able to use some of the table features here to filter by date, by road manager area, by the instrument even, or even by vehicle type. So you'll be able to get specific updates for what you concerned about, either the notices or the vehicles that you operate. Finally, the last feature of the map is essentially having a log of what you've been recently viewing. So again, this is browser based. It'll keep a track of what you've viewed and when. So if you forget to favorite something or even save it as a view, you can go back to your recently viewed networks and jump back into one of those. So for example, I was viewing the Super B doubles in Victoria. I can just click on that. It'll then open it up. And I can go back and favorite that one. So that's pretty much most of the key features. Last thing around navigation is that there is the ability to find particular locations by typing in the search. So this search is street-based or suburb-based. I could type in Port of Melbourne, and then that will take me exactly to that particular location. And in this case, that's where the CPB double network is under pre-approval. So, and again, just to reinforce, because I will use this probably for presentation tomorrow, I can either share that or I can save this as a view. So that will then allow me to quickly go back to that. The only other thing that I haven't mentioned so far is the layers. So we are loading up all of the layers from each of the state websites. Some of them will be split out into their own separate one. So for example, the New South Wales 4.6 metre high vehicle network. Others we're trying to group up so that we can provide more of a national view, but it will be dependent because these are being sourced directly from the state agencies. So we're still looking at how to best categorise things. So things like the New South Wales farm gate networks will probably split out, and things like roadworks and disruptions we're hoping to keep in the one place. So once you turn them on, you'll just see them nationally, but you can still zoom into the ones that make sense for you. So that's still a work in progress. We're aiming to get the layers fully in by the end of this week, obviously before we go live next Wednesday. All right, so that was a quick run through the new national map. I'll open it up to any questions. I'll have a look at the chat to see. So will this be integrated into the portal for permit applications? So version 1 will be a standalone, as you see here. But yes, version 2, which we're aiming to, which is on our roadmap for June, July next year, is where we'll be integrating this into the portal. So essentially, the national network map does sit on our portal. We haven't integrated it into the access permits module yet, but that's coming in the next 6 months. And so that will mean you'll be able to basically have your permitted network and the gazetted networks and any other networks that are available in one place under your login. So that's definitely the goal for that one. Some more questions. What is the plan to incorporate more Queensland networks to make it similar to other states? So we will have all of the gazetted Queensland networks. So if I jump back into Queensland, so we've got all of the gazetted networks. There's a couple of others which will be included as layers. Like height clearance layers and stuff like that. Any other gazetted networks that come along over time will be able to be added in. I know there's a few new gazettes coming through from New South Wales and Victoria. So the system is designed to be able to accommodate quickly onboarding new maps and obviously, more importantly, expanding the existing maps that are there. So I hope I answered that question 30. Bruno, will the Victorian individual bridge limits be integrated into the map too? Yes, the bridge limits, trying to remember the layers that are available, but all the layers that are currently available on the Victorian maps will be coming across into the national map as a part of the layer control here. So I can't remember exactly which the layers are, but I'm almost certain they will be. Just to bear in mind, so this will be the source of truth, but we will be keeping maps accessible on the existing systems. So, for example, RavNet will still be available. They will be kept up to date and in sync with each other. So obviously we're not going to be aiming to do that for the long term, but that will be available, and the ability to go back to those will be there too. Any more questions? No? Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for your time, everyone. Appreciate some of the questions there, and if there's any other questions that you do have, there's a couple of mechanisms. There's obviously our contact center and the info at nhvr.gov.au, and the information that's currently on our website. I will just post this link to the current maps for you now into the chat. And the recording, yes, Michael. So we'll make the recordings available probably through, I think it's usually through our YouTube. I'll get that organised probably by the end of this week, if not first thing Monday next week. Feel free to use that link. Just bear in mind it's still the data's not complete and up to date yet until we do the full cutover, so they're not the source of truth. But feel free to use it. There is feedback available, and there will be feedback available. So you can click through on the help here and provide us any feedback. We'll be introducing, based on some additional information that industry's provided us, a more clearer link to say feedback, which will basically open this up to provide some structured feedback. But that will be an online channel for you to be able to use, as well as, like I said, our contact centre and existing info app. All right, so I think a little bit over time, so I'll cut it short there. Thanks for your time, everyone, and look forward to the launch of the maps next week, and your feedback is more than welcome, both now and at the launch. Have a good day.
Thank you.